Hi, this is Mary Pagano. I'm with Hera TV, and I'm also a board advisor for Hera, the Light of Women. Today, I have two really powerful women that have a strong information to share with everybody. One is Rosi Orozco, and Rosie is also an ambassador for Hera, but she's doing amazing work in human trafficking in Mexico. She has basically opened some homes for kids, and she's rescued over 200 children to date, and helping them to get an education, have food, and a place to live and thrive. And she's such a strong advocate for human trafficking. She's also had a Hera Day in Washington, D.C. for the rights of children and women with human trafficking. She's also an author of 5 books. And today she's raising money for Freedom Game. So donations are welcome. And Rosie, I'll put that in the bottom of our thing as well. So, and I'm happy to say that I've made a donation to your event.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we also have Emma Jane Thompson. And so
Emma Jane Taylor.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So Emma Jane Taylor is a survivor of child sexual abuse. And she's got a very fascinating story. She's also an author. She's got a book out. She's a keynote speaker. She has a charity organization she runs. She's also the CEO of the Works Company. But she's a huge sexual child sex abuse activist and doing great work. So, and I will have all the information on these two powerful ladies in the bios of this conversation. So you will definitely want to connect with them because they're doing great things. And as you know, human trafficking is such a horrible issue that's happening all over the world. And Hera is fully behind the work that these brave women are doing. So I'm going to start with my first question. And Emma, I'll start with you. Why did it take you so long to speak out about your abuse?
I think when you're going through any recovery after being abused, it isn't something that is automatically, I guess it's not a moment where you go, oh, I was sexually abused. You don't really know what's going on in your life while you're a young child, early teens, late teens, early 20s. It's when you get to your early 20s, Mary, that you start thinking, okay, well, actually, I don't think that was right. And I don't think that was normal. Maybe you kind of thought that, but you're not mature enough. And actually, when you have been abused, you have a delayed onset of maturity anyway. You're very held back by the difficulties in life. So, you know, whilst I realized, I think in my late teens that something wasn't right, the only way for me to communicate that was through drugs, was through drinking, was through being just the worst child I could be. But of course, no one registered, no one saw that. But that was my way of communicating. And then you kind of have this, it's the stigma that everybody has around this conversation. It's an embarrassing, taboo subject. And then being a survivor or victim, or, you know, back then I was definitely a victim. I've become a survivor as I've matured in the latter part of my life. You don't have the vocabulary, and it's a dirty secret, right? It's a dirty secret you carry, and you don't know what to do with it, so you don't speak out. And it wasn't really until about 5 years ago when I published my first book that I thought, you know what, I'm sat here in a world where I've been I've been successful in my work as a businesswoman, with the work that I do in performing arts for children and also in fitness and well-being for adults. And I thought, you know what, I was presenting the wellbeing show here on That's TV, and I was seen as the girl who had everything. But actually, I've worked very hard to be that woman, to be on that sofa presenting that show. And that didn't come easily. And I felt an imposter. So it was really imposter syndrome that made me sort of sit up and listen. And then BBC 3 TV here were doing a documentary, and they invited me on to talk about regrets. And then I was invited into a magazine, onto a big magazine, a women magazine here in the UK, to talk about business. And I thought, you know what, this is my chance to start tiptoeing in, because you realize, Mary, the dirty secret isn't yours. It never has been. It's the perpetrator's dirty secret.
Exactly.
You carry it for them because they have manipulated you enough to make you feel like it's yours. So, and then that was it. I kind of just went, I unleashed, and I thought it might car crash my career. And I just thought, you know what, I don't care now. I need to just get on and do this, regardless of what happens. So it took me that long because I was uneducated, I wasn't mature, and I felt it was my dirty secret. And so when I woke up and realized it wasn't, and I wasn't this, imposter syndrome really wasn't something that, I should be dealing with, I decided then that I needed to make a really sort of stand forward to have this conversation and make the change. So, and I dare say it's the same for lots of people of a certain age, when we go, right, okay, we're just going to unleash the beast now, because, and it's quite an appropriate quote really, isn't it? Let it go, let it be their problem, not mine. If they don't like it, then it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to make sure that I am strong and able to live my life regardless, personally and professionally, and I'm going to do that. And so it took me that long because of that, really.
Wow. Well, you're doing great work now, and I think that's really important, and that you survived. I think that's one of the big things.
Thank you,
Rosie. I have a question for you. How did you get started to fight human trafficking?
Well, after hearing Emma, I just have these these memories where when I heard the first time video, a documentary about the life of a little girl who was abandoned by the mother, and then she was captured by these horrible traffickers, taken to another country. This is a movie that is called Lila Forever. And I was in Washington, D.C., like I am now again in Washington. And I came to a program that was called the Bridge program, the Bridge. So this project that was presented by Concerned Women for America was to train people from Latin America to fight human trafficking. And I didn't know anything about human trafficking, but just to see that beautiful girl like Emma that, deserves all the peace, the joy, the happiness when you are a child, and this girl was taken by the traffickers. When she happened to escape in that movie that is about real life, about a case that was happening here there in Europe, she escapes and you feel, oh, okay, she's now safe. But sadly, in that movie, that girl commits suicide. She takes away her life. And that's why I admire Emma and so many girls that really fights and decides not to take away their life, but decides to do something for others. That's the most precious thing that Emma is doing. That she's now helping so many with her voice, with her courage, because there is so many that are not speaking, that are keeping those horrible secrets that maybe they will end their own life, maybe being sick or maybe committing suicide like this little girl. So I compare my life at that moment, because I come from a very strong family that I had so much love and nothing like that happened. And that makes you more responsible. I think that all of us that has had opportunities in life, I'm married to a wonderful man, you know him, and he's the most
Yeah.
precious husband you can have. I mean, well, I really feel him like a partner, and it's such an opportunity to do more when you have had love, when you have had no problems. Then I think all of us that we have had a different situation, we must. It's not like generosity, it's like giving back what you have had, that you don't deserve it. I don't deserve to be to have had a family like I had, the same as Emma didn't deserve to have a problem like she had. I mean, this trauma that many girls have, it's not what they deserve to have. So all
No.
of us, we should do something, because it's justice. It's justice that if you didn't have a problem, you don't have to wait to have a problem to do something for another human being. It's because you didn't have that situation that you must help more people, because you have something inside that was given, I believe, by God to do something for the rest of the world. So that's the way I feel. I feel that I am responsible to do more, because I receive so much love from my family and my husband.
Yeah. That's very well said, Rosie. I think what both of you women are doing is so powerful because it affects more women than people even realize, right? Probably. I mean, I was sexually abused at the age of 5, but I have a lot of girlfriends who have all been sexually abused. And the scary
So
part
many,
about it is
so
that it's
many.
usually neighbors, it's family, it's the people that are the closest to you, and unbeknownst to their parents, right? So I know that's what Emma went through, but the statistics are so high, and you're right, people don't talk about it, and they drop it lightly and say, oh, it's just sex. It's more than that. I mean, it is violence, and I think that's what you guys are doing. I'm extremely proud of both of you. Emma, what I wanted to ask you was, what made you write your first book, Don't Hold Back?
Mhm. And just before I touch on that, of course, I did that TED talk as well. It's not just the strangers we should be careful of. And that was based on the 90-10 statistic that we are taught stranger danger at school. But
Yep.
it's 10% of the abuse and rapes and things that happen are with strangers. We are not educating on the 90%. And that's what we need to be doing. I still get scared of the man in the white van, right? Because that's what I was taught. I wasn't scared of the friend of the family. Anyway, so I digress. But anyway, yeah, so why did I write my first book? Well, I wrote my first book, Mary, because I one day thought, do you know what, it feels like the right thing for me to do, to share my story, to give back hope, and to give someone a voice, and to give someone hope that they are not alone, and they never have been. I always said, if what I say and what I write and what I do helps one person, it will always be worth it. Since my book has been published, it's gone all around the world, and people are still contacting me from Southeast Asia, from Australia, and thanking me, because it's great that they've been able to feel connected, feel like they're not alone. And I think people are talking more and more about this stuff. People are writing more and more, but we need to get more and more people to write, because there are millions and millions out there like us who have been abused in some shape or form throughout our life. So it was really just to give back. And like I say, I mean, I didn't really sort of appreciate back then that I would be where I am today, because I had no map. You know, when you start business, you have an idea of what you want to do, what you want to achieve. I just knew with that book, I just wanted to help give hope, raise awareness, and give a voice to someone struggling in silence. So that was really sort of my driver. And I think I cried and cried and cried when I was writing it, because it It was very cathartic. It was very liberating. But by the time it had got published a year later, the tears had turned to a new strength, and it allowed me to feel much more comfortable and able, regardless of who might say what, why, and when. I was ready for that. And you know, and I think, you know, you've got to be ready when you write a book, whoever you are. You know, I don't advise anyone to stand on the big stages that I stand on, or write a book, or, you know, go in the national press, unless you feel that you have had a lot of support behind you to do that. But I do support everybody to go and get a therapist, because everybody needs somebody. So you don't have to talk on a stage or like I am, but you can find someone who can help you, a friend, a therapist, a family member, because it is better out. And as hard as it is, it will be a little step towards a bigger change for you over the time. So yeah, so to give someone hope, and I'm glad that I've now got that book out there, and I'm very proud of it.
I'm sure you are, and I'm sure you've helped tons of women around the world. So
and actually, and men as well. I know this is, you know, mostly focused on women, but, you know, men as well. And I think we can't ignore the importance of men. Men are struggling with this as much and more than women, because they have a pride and a difficulty attached to them that makes them not want to talk. So, you know, it has helped men and women.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting is that there's a lot of things that happen in the workplace that are a bit slight, but yet they're destructive. And I remember talking to a man about some of the things that would happen to me in business meetings, and he was appalled. He was shocked. And I'm like, this is the norm. This is what women deal with on a regular day-to-day basis. And it shouldn't be the norm, right? But I don't think a lot of men realize it or recognize it. And so I think there's a big education process that needs to be done with men. So if we're going to, you know, collaborate in a better way, we need to educate both sides.
Totally agree. And I think it's a really important thing to do for everybody, you know, all media platforms. And I think it's really smart as well, because men really do get forgotten in these conversations.
Right. And they're not necessarily the bad guys, but education is really critical. So Rosie, a question for you. What was the most challenging job fighting human trafficking? Rosie?
I think she's on mute. Rosie, you're on mute.
Like Emma was saying, I think start helping men. We opened a shelter for boys. And at the beginning, I really was thinking that it was exactly like the girls' shelter, and it's not. And like Emma was saying, it's very difficult for boys to speak. We have one man in the whole world that I know, Luis Armando Campos, the one who works with me. He was abused from 14 to 17, and the man that was a musical producer was selling him in Facebook to pedophiles, and they were buying him and tying him and torture him and doing horrible things to him, and filming and taking pictures and sending them. And when he decided to abandon and to run away from this horrible musical producer, was because he has such an incredible voice, and he went to Mexico City and to a national contest, and he won. He was in the finalists. He didn't make first prize, but he was in the finalists. And then a friend of mine, Judy, it's a singer, she helped him to come with me and to meet me, and we started this case and helped him until now. The producer of music is going to be 25 years in jail. He is free and he's married, and the wife is wonderful, and also she's incredible, and both are helping us. But the shelter of boys has been a big challenge. I think one of the most important challenges, because there is no protocols in the world. There is nothing anywhere. You know, we were the first in America. United States didn't have a shelter for human trafficking boys.
Wow.
And they opened one in North Carolina after we opened the first one. So we have had so many challenges, and we're working in doing the papers, you know, the protocols and everything, because we're learning from the experience, and it has been challenging. But of course, the most challenge is to raise the money for it. This year that is finishing, one day I had like $30 in the account for 87 victims that depends on me. So I was crying. I was really devastated because the president of our board is a restaurant owner. He had 27 restaurants. Now he's struggling with 10. So the coronavirus has been very, very challenging for all of us that are in the social entrepreneurs.
In life, I think, Rosie, in business, I think we've all suffered.
Yeah,
and worse for the charity sectors.
You are right, because also all the girls and the boys that are in shelter were locked down.
Yeah.
And it's craziness. It's really terrible. So yeah, I think this year, the whole thing, it has been for Emma and for me a whole challenge in every way. I think it has been so difficult, Emma. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Emma, for your second book, you've been interviewing sex offenders. Why do you think this is something you wanted to do? That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't something, again, I set out to do. It was just as my work has unfolded, I speak to survivors, I speak to charities, I speak to support groups. I am now on an advisory board for sex offenders. I'm on an advisory board for survivors. I speak to the medical teams, I speak to nurses, I speak to families of loved ones of survivors. And I thought, you know what? This is all great, this stuff, this voice, this power, but we need to go behind to the darker side.
The why.
Yes. And you might not get the answers you want, because unfortunately, some cases will never give you the answers that you want because of mental health and other difficulties. But you can gain some answers if you speak to if you do speak to sex offenders. And so, yeah, I put it on my board. I was like, right, this year I'm going to speak to sex offenders, and I spoke to 3. And the first one I met, he was an American. He's on parole. And I didn't really think too much about it until we met and went live on our meeting, and my body just suddenly felt like, oh, this is powerful. This is really big. Now, I wasn't there looking to forgive the sex offender. I'm not looking to feel sorry for the sex offender. I'm not looking. What I want to do is extract information and look at the whole of this conversation. Because if we're not looking at everything, we cannot have this uncomfortable conversation to be the big enough conversation that it needs to be. So a lot of people find this a very awkward conversation, but I don't. I want to know, and I want to know from the horse's mouth why they thought it was an acceptable thing to do, and also understand that person. So I went in, and I have to say, the 3 sex offenders I spoke to were all male. I had a chaperone with me on each meeting, and it was all very safe, and they thanked me for the work that I was doing as well, which I thought was quite a powerful thing, because they didn't ask for forgiveness. They knew what they had done was wrong. I think if we're talking about these 3 isolated offenders, their education was poor, their childhood was poor. Now, that doesn't suggest for 1 minute that you are going to become an abuser because you have been sexually abused. But some people, I mean, I guess most people thought I'd be dead or in prison by the time I was 20, right? Thank goodness I wasn't. I'm here because I had a sliding doors moment. A lot of people never have that sliding doors moment. They never have that opportunity to flourish, to succeed. They might scrape past in their life, scrape by in their life to live, function. But I have been given an opportunity and I've just gone, do you know what, I'm going to grab this. So yeah, so for me, it was about getting an all-round research on a conversation that I know a lot about. I'd like to know more about from the people I'm interviewing, but also go to the horse's mouth that I can gain maybe some insights and some knowledge. I didn't feel, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, they're going to lie their way through. And I didn't feel that, Mary. I didn't feel like that they were there to make themselves feel better. And at the end, like I say, they genuinely thanked me for the work that I was doing and how important it was to be the difference in young people's lives today. So, and had they had that education as a young person, maybe they wouldn't have become a perpetrator. And that was really important because the work that I'm doing, the safeguarding training I'm doing, the schools that I'm going into are to give young people the right tools to know how to protect themselves. But also it's to give potential perpetrators thoughts and processes that they might not be getting in their own life and education at home. So it kind of worked really well for me with the work that I was doing, and it felt like the right thing to do. So yeah, I have these interviews. I'm proud to be an advisor on a sex offender board. I think that's really important. As a survivor, I'm out here doing what I can to reduce child sex abuse, and by doing that, I'm going, right, I'm going to stand in this conversation. Yeah, you know, not everyone's going to like it, but that's not my problem. My problem is to make sure I create an education to safeguard children for the generations to come.
That's brilliant. Wow. You know, really, that's brilliant. Rosie, your comments on that? Yes. I think that's huge. When I think about, and also Emma, do you remember when Sally did a interview with the group that she was gang raped?
Yes.
And she forgave them. I was like, whoa. I mean, that was hard. I mean, just to watch it was hard. But I think when you're getting to kids at such a young age and educating them on both sides of the fence, I think is where it really needs to start.
Yeah, and I have forgiven my perpetrators as well, and I haven't done that because I want them to feel better. I've done it so I can liberate myself to move forward. Yeah. And you have to think of yourself, right? I mean, God, we are born alone, we live alone, we die alone, right?
Yeah.
We've also got to just get through this stuff as best as we can alone.
Heal the anger and heal the pain, and
I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to be twisted all my life. I didn't want to, imagine taking a gun to someone's head and killing them because of the way they treated me anymore. I just didn't want that stuff in my life. And, I'm not that person, right? I am not that person. Before my first abuse, when I was 9 years old, I look back and I was just a nice little girl. I was just a lovely little girl. And then life damaged me, the years damaged me. And by the time I came out of that in my late teens, I was this crazy, put me in prison or, like I say, most people thought I'd be dead. I was a lunatic. And I think it's hard to imagine now because I'm just not that person, but I never was I was. And I think that's the important thing. I was never that person. That was the way I was communicating with the world because I was going through a very difficult time. No one picked up on it. And unfortunately, even today, people aren't picking up on this communication that kids are giving about their life. But that's why it's really important, the work that I'm doing, Rosie and Mary, that you're even, you're talking about this. This is the first interview, the proper interview I've had about talking about the sex offender interview, because that's now my next journey, is to start this path. So
the why. Get to the why.
To get to the why, and also, and thank you for supporting me on that as well, right? Because again, not many people want to publish this stuff because it's not a comfortable selling interview. But I know the importance of it, and and I know how many millions of people this will help.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot.
Yep. Kudos to
Yeah.
you. Kudos to you. Hey, Rosie, why is it
Yes.
so important to open shelters?
Because we need to protect the ones that escapes. In Mexico, only 1% escape from this hell. Another 1% is rescue. So 2% survives human trafficking. And if Emma was explaining to us how difficult it is to be abused, imagine Carla Jacinto being raped 30, 40 times a day when she was 12. If she, like happens to her, one client was not paying for sex, was paying for telling her how valuable was her. Carla Jacinto was 4 years in those brothels where men will come 30 to 40 every day. More than 40,000 beasts bought that little body of her. And only one pay just to tell her, you are valued. You are an incredible person. You have to escape. He took 1 year and a half because she had a baby and the traffickers took her baby and she couldn't escape and leave the baby. That's something that is very familiar, that is very common between the traffickers from a place that is called Tlaxcala. And all of them, they do that. The victims they have, they will pregnant them and to take away the children, and their families in these places in Tlaxcala will take care of these children, and the victim will never escape. Even if she's by herself in the street, she will never run away without the baby. So this wonderful man who was paying only to talk to her, she was thinking, oh, he's crazy. Why do you want only to talk? Not like the others, you don't want sex. And he will continue for 1 year and almost a half, 1 year and a half almost. He will continue. Jose Calvario Becerra was his name. He was from Puebla, and he helped her to escape. So he came to the shelter, and she was so mad to the world, like Emma. She was acting like crazy. She was hitting the walls. She was trying to hit us all. She was shouting to the world. It was so painful. And we had a bad psychologist. I have to recognize, I have to be very ashamed to say that the stupid woman who was trying to help her said to Carla, oh, I understand you. So Carla went crazy and she went like furious, saying, you cannot understand what happened to me. You can't. So now in all the shelters, we have survivors. We have people that has a story, that has finished university. We have 9, we call them supervivors. We call them not only survivors, but they are super survivors because they are incredible people like Emma that can really connect with the victims and that they could say, I really understand you, and you can really overcome what you are, what is happening to you. And if you don't have the shelters, it's so difficult to get the shelters because every one of us, we're risking our lives. It's the organized crime and the children, and we are between them. We are in the middle of it. So many people, they don't want to. And also, it's complicated. It's a lot of papers, it's a lot of work, and it's dangerous. And we don't have the shelters. These girls will be in their hands again. Imagine Carla Jacinto. Okay, this man spent 1 year and a half telling her and helping her until she has the baby. She runs away, helped by this incredible man, Jose Calvario Becerra, in a taxi. she knows that she cannot go to the authorities that are the local authorities, because she knows that the pimp was friend of them. So she has to go from Puebla 2 hours away in a bus to Mexico. When she's coming in the bus, she's looking if he's not coming, following her, because he has tell her many times every day when she didn't have enough money, he will hit her almost to death. Every day she will have either burned by the iron with an iron burn in her sexual parts. She was going to be hit with chains or sticks or with the boots with a metal thing in the point. So she will be so tortured, and when she, thanks to that man, happened to escape, she was really frightened, and in the bus she was remembering all the times he said, if one day you escape, I will find you and I will kill you. So she lived with a lot of fear. If she didn't have a shelter, imagine her life. Imagine how easy for the pimp was to find her, because he knew where the family was living. Of course, all the pimps knows where the family are. So we need 32 shelters in Mexico, one in each state. We need more shelters in all over the world. We need more people that would really, let me tell you, yeah, it is dangerous, but it's the most gratification thing in the world, just to see somebody that has a blank page. I call, because of my last book is called Blank Page, because when you have a blank page, you can write a new story. So when you read in those book of dreams, we get in those shelters, we gave them many blank pages for them to fill with pictures from magazines, with colors, with markets, with beautiful book of dreams, so they can dream again. They can recover their project for life. That's what we do, and we are now in this fundraising campaign praying to God for a miracle, because we need $750,000 to help 87 survivors that depend on us, 31 that are minors. And we are really excited because there is some business people who will double what you give. So like yesterday, Mary, you gave and you saw how it went double. You gave an amount and went double by these people. But if on the 12th you get to the goal, will be only what you gave. You know, some of these business people are playing the game that it's going to be double if we have the support of the society, if we have the people that will give enough for the amount we need. So
Wow.
it's a big challenge. Every year we have arrived to the goal, and well, this is a difficult year, but we believe in miracles, Mary.
Yeah.
And we have seen the miracles in their life. That's the most difficult thing, to see Carla Jacinto now, that she's the most famous activist, Carla Jacinto. It took me so much patience. She almost hit me. She was. I always say that the white hair I have, it's because of what happened between she and me, and we always laugh about it because she's very funny. But if you Google her with K, Carla Jacinto, she's so famous. She has been all over the world. She has been in Dubai, in India, in Spain, in France, in UK, everywhere. She has been everywhere, and she's very famous. And she's now in 2022 opening her own NGO that is going to be called Blank Page.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah. I love the work that you're doing, Rosie. I think it's mind blowing. Hey, Emma, I know you just spoke for the PCC's biggest fundraising event in UK. How did that go?
Hi,
And
sorry, I was on mute.
That's
Wow,
okay.
well, do you know, it was brilliant, Mary. You know, out of the millions of people that they could have chosen, they chose me to speak at the celebrity chef dinner at the NSPCC Guildhall last week. There were over 500 guests. It was a black tie event. There were celebrity chefs there. There were celebrity singers there. And you know what? It was kind of, it was like, was I nervous? Yes, I was nervous, but I felt so strong that night because I knew exactly why I was there. You know, the failure and the girl that most people thought would end life in prison or in an early grave. Here she was speaking at the biggest fundraising event of the year. They raised £266,000 just from that night alone. And my speech raised £22,000, which was, you know, a real substantial amount of money. But when I spoke, it was for every survivor. It was for every person struggling in silence, and for every child who is being abused right now today.
Yeah.
I don't feel afraid to stand here anymore. I found my strength, and I know that I am worth it, and I know that what I can share can help other people know that they are worth it, right? I mean, I feel immensely proud that I found my strength to do this. So when I took to that stage, it was a very, very glitzy affair. But behind the glitz and glamour, for me, there are important messages. You know, I leaned into my spiritual side. I spoke for the millions of young people being abused. I spoke for the millions of adults that need to learn more and the generations to come to understand how important these conversations are and how important they are to share. And obviously raising awareness to the NSPCC here in the UK, our biggest national charity. But when I was first asked, they interviewed me about 3 or 4 years ago, and then about 3 or 4 months ago, they invited me to speak. And of course, you know, I almost fell off my chair. I was shocked, not because I didn't think I could do it, but because someone wanted me to do it on their behalf at their biggest evening. Of course, I said yes without hesitation, and I spoke the only way that I knew how, and that was from my heart. You know, it's taken me over 25 years of therapy to be here, to be present in my life and to be successful. And I don't mean monetary. I'm just a girl doing what she can to get by in the only one short life she's been given. And I really focus on my mental, emotional, physical strength, which is something that I've taken from my therapy to pay forward, because I know how important it is to be mentally, emotionally, and physically strong. I work out every day, and I have done forever, but that's what I need. It's part of my day. I guess, you know, to have been asked was phenomenal. You know, it's taken me years to be able to feel worth it, to be able to feel valued and credible. And I think this would be a really interesting research, maybe with the work that you guys are doing. Imposter syndrome, it plays havoc with you for chunks of your life. I've always wondered if this is something that maybe is heightened after you've been abused. Okay, so that for me would be a really interesting study. So if you ever have any comments on that, just share them with me. You know, I remember being asked as a child, Mary, what I wanted to do with my life at a careers meeting in school. I hated school. I didn't even want to be there. I was often suspended. I was mostly in isolation, or often found in detentions or put on report. So I never knew what I wanted to do. Even when I left school with my tail between my legs, I had no care for this conversation about what I wanted to do with my life. You know, like I say, most of it was spent in isolation or suspended. So I didn't really have the greatest of educations in any shape or form with my young life. But when I went to my careers advice, never did the option of becoming a child sex abuse activist, author, and speaker get offered to me in my careers meeting. Funny that. But of course, here I am, and I couldn't be prouder of this voice. So, you know, I push on. I have a strong team around me, and I know the importance of me, sorry, not of me, of a voice like mine and a voice like other people's, who can really give that power to other survivors to help them on their way with finding someone to speak to, i.e. therapy to start with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you find it hard? I mean, are you at a point, Emma, where you can talk about it and not shed a tear?
Yes. The first time I went to a book launch with my mother and stepfather and my brother, my first book launch, actually. I felt really prepared. And then I get into the room and I start my presentation, and I can see my stepfather pull out his hanky, and he started to cry. So I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to go over to this side of the audience. It's quite a big audience. And then I started coming back, and as I came back, my brother had his hanky out and he was crying. And I thought, oh my goodness, I mean, I'm literally going to have to perform to this other half of the audience tonight. And that really pulled on my heartstrings, because it's my journey, but it affects everybody, right? In my family and my friends and my network, as it is for my friends and my family with their stories in their life. So I think over those sort of first 2 years, I found it very hard to speak without being emotional. But I wouldn't stand there and sob. I would just, before I knew it, there'd be a tear dropping from my face. There would be that pull. But now I am where I am, 5 years on from sort of when I first spoke out. I don't have that. I have the emotion, of course, because it's a story that's relatable for so many people, but my purpose is for other people. My purpose, my writing, my speaking. I present a radio show in the UK, which is focused only on child sex abuse. My purpose is to give, like I said at the beginning, hope, awareness, and a voice to those struggling in silence. So it's originally, of course, it's your story that's coming out, but now it's my story. What is the good that my story can do? Right. And whilst it's important to understand the story and the credibility of my life to be doing what I am today, I don't always want it to be about my story, and I hope that makes sense. I don't want to be interviewed every time about my story. What I want to be interviewed on is Project 9010, the work that I'm doing, the second book with the sex offenders, and my why, because that ultimately, I did that 5 years ago to be here going, this is why I'm doing it, and this is the change that's needed. So it's
I'm going to solve it.
And while I was on stage last week, there were some moments that you sit up and listen again to yourself when you're talking, but they're not moments where I want to just cry. They're just moments where I go, okay, I realize that every now and then a memory will come back. Even now at 49 years old, a memory will come back, or a taste or a smell or a sound or a piece of music will hit me where hard. But then I've learned through my 25 years of therapy how to cope with that and how to deal with it. So I don't hide from it anymore. I work with it and I use it to be my strength. I had a catalogue of songs that I couldn't listen to because my perpetrator played them all the time. But on the day of the presentation last week, the talk last week, I listened to every song before I stood on that stage, because I turned the conversation to be about my perpetrator, to be about my lessons and the strength that I have to pay forward. So I made it my strength and part of my journey. Disclaimer, I don't advise anyone to do that without having a therapist or someone stronger, and some good thought around you. But it's what I have found has benefited me. Because this isn't about winning or losing, right? There's no winners or losers here, right? No. This is about taking the reins to take control for the future, the kids now and the generations to come. So changing that education by lessons and what we've learned and gained. So I'm very proud. Occasionally, if I'm home and in a private moment, I'll take a moment and think, you know what? I'm doing okay, right? I've come a long way. And it's good.
Brilliant. Kudos to you.
And I really and I really lean in spiritually now. I'm certainly by no means a strongly religious person, but I do believe there is a good energy out there, and a spiritual energy that has helped me survive. And it's I have this energy, and I have guides. That's what I believe. I have guides who have kept me safe, because there are a billion times in my childhood that I really should not have made it through.
You definitely have. There was a purpose.
And
you're doing your purpose right now.
And that feels good.
Absolutely. And I really think, Mary, that what the UN is doing now, saying there is a campaign saying that victims lead the way, and for human trafficking, that we have been preparing so many that any of the girls or boys that wants to be a boys like Emma, we give them all the opportunities, the therapy, the training, the way that they can speak out. And when I hear this from Emma, I am sure that the UN and Emma and everybody is doing the right thing, because it's healing. Every time that she's speaking about it and doing this training, when you listen to this music and you are training yourself to be able to be talking about it, we admire you, Emma. We admire, and we believe that you are the ones who had to lead the way for the rest of the victims to be able to know that they can also overcome. It's incredible to hear you, Emma. I'm very touched. I'm very moved, and I really admire you so much, Emma.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thanks God you exist, and it's so beautiful to hear you.
And you know what, Mary, Rosie, that's what gets me emotional.
Yeah, I get emotional just to hear you, because I know how difficult. Not because I will never understand completely, but I've seen how difficult. Like the biggest case we have that is a couple like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It's a singer in Mexico who is in impunity. She's very famous, she's very powerful, and every time the girls wants to speak, not only her, but all her fanatics around her comes and attacks the victims. And I was attacked by her just recently. Yesterday, I was trying to do a live in Instagram, and the fanatics of her were attacking me because there was an evidence that she was doing money laundering with her husband, and then the victims try again. It has been 20 years that these victims were not able to speak, and they have tried to be heard. And it's a case like R. Kelly, they were acting exactly like R. Kelly. The people that was working with R. Kelly were the ones who were bringing the girls for R. Kelly to rape them and to abuse them. And because it's powerful people, R. Kelly, many years, he was in impunity. This singer, this woman that is like the Mexican Madonna, just for understanding the aggressive character of her, she has been so bad to the victims. And I started to help one of them 10 years ago, and she couldn't speak without crying. She couldn't, she was terrified only to say what happened, because this horrible woman, this singer, it's always turning around everything. That, like saying, no, she wanted my money. She was 16 years old. The sister was 13 years old. And she's twisting everything. And because she's so famous and people is crazy, her songs are, she sings what she does, exactly like R. Kelly. She sings about virgins because she was taking these virgins to this monster. And she's exactly like R. Kelly, singing what the crimes she was doing. And it's in impunity. And the only way that we are going to end with this abuse of children is by speaking, by losing this fear. And even if they cry, it took so long for one of them to be able to speak without crying. And it's not a problem if she cries, but she didn't want to. So I am sure she's going to listen to Emma, and she's going to be inspired by this program. And I'm sure that all of these girls will be really happy to hear Emma and will be inspired by Emma. So pray for this case, because it's something that also I am going to be leaving my country, because There is no conditions for me to be doing what I do in my country, and that's very sad for me. It's very sad. I have never, ever, I love Mexico. I adore my country. I always speak good about my country. And now there is no conditions, and we know, my husband and me, that next year we will have to be living outside of Mexico.
Wow. Wow. Uh, so, Rosie, since you've got all these trafficking homes, what's the process for a victim to recover?
Long process. It's much better, like Emma is doing, to prevent all these crimes, to help that they don't occur, that they don't happen, because to help a child, it's so expensive. First of all, we're not talking about one person who abused one girl. This is organized crime. So we have like organized crime, like the Zetas. We had a victim that we protect for some months, and it was so dangerous. We have to have guards, of course, video cameras, and all the expensive things for protecting these children. We don't have one psychologist, we have 5 psychologists, because for 2 shelters, the minors, for the minors. And we have one wonderful woman who wrote a book that is called La Estrella de Luna. The Estrella de Luna is the name in Spanish. She's Raquel Caspi, and she takes care of the older ones, the ones that are already out of the shelters, because we need to have somebody to call when there is a crisis. And we have a very good team of lawyers, because they deserve to have their predators in jail. It's very important for them. So 98% of the predators are in jail. We have 98% of the predators. The singer of this case is not yet, but we will never end looking for justice, because the victims deserve truth and justice. This singer, the horrible monster, she is trying to do a bio series. She's trying to do like for Netflix or something. I don't know who is going to be the horrible company that will buy a video series made by the predator. It's always the victim who writes the book. It's always the victim who tells the story. But this time, it's going to be the predator. So it's very important to spend money on helping these victims. So it is going to take us a long time, a long term, with good lawyers to take the 100% of the predators to jail. And then also you have some that needs psychiatric treatment and medications that are expensive. And many of them, like we have one with papilloma humano. It's a disease that it's very sad. A little girl, 7 years old, with a sex disease that could develop cancer. And another one with SIDA, AIDS, with AIDS, and the baby has AIDS, the mother and the baby. So it's a lot of work and a lot of money that is very important to spend, because they need the best. They need to have the best. That's why we are doing this fundraising campaign, and that's why we need so much money. We are not only one NGO. We have Carla de la Cuesta has her own NGO. She's one of the victims of this horrible monster. And the Carla Jacinto and Luis Armando are opening Blank Page. And we have the Shelter for Girls, we have the Shelter for Boys, we have one NGO that is very important for us, because when you are working against trafficking, you get to know a lot of families whose daughter has disappeared in Mexico.
Yeah.
And we have more than 100. And Leti Mora is a courageous mother who looked for her daughter for 2 years and found her daughter killed in a horrible way. And the day that she was, with her body and crying in the funeral, I told her, you can cry so many years, or you can help all the mothers that you have met. And she decided to help all those mothers, now more than 100 families. And we help her. We give her money for being able to help all these families. So every time somebody calls me, my daughter has disappeared, I contact Leti, and she has all the contact with all the authorities to help us to look. So many are recovered, so many are found, but so many, like a little girl, 7 years old, the mother looking for her went to Tijuana, the border with the United States, where there are so many brothels, so many places where the girls are exploited. And the mother went there and saw the hell, saw the nightmare that these girls are living. This mother who was looking for this 7 years old girl, she came back and she died of sadness. She died. She couldn't live anymore because what she saw and imagined her little girl was too much. So for us, it's so important to help these mothers, to help Leti Mora, to help them, because many of these girls are being trapped in those horrible places where there is human trafficking. Thanks God in Mexico, 3 states has closed all the strip clubs, brothels, places where human beings are sold like merchandise. Tamaulipas, Coahuila, and the state of Mexico, Estado de Mexico, they have closed those places. And I really think this is important for ending human trafficking, that we don't see normal that a human being is sold, not his body or her body, not any part of the body. The whole body is secret, and it has to be taken, care with love and protect.
Wow. Wow. You're definitely fighting a battle there, Rosie. Kudos to you for the work that you're doing. Rosie, I have a final question, or I'm sorry, Emma, I have a final question for you. Your project 9010, you're launching a new charity. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this is a charity being set. So Project 9010 is a charity being set up, which is solely focused on giving young people and parents the right tools through education, raising awareness and sharing knowledge on the subject of child sex abuse and what needs to be done to reduce the crime. The work we are doing ensures that young people and the generations to follow are armed with the necessary skills in life to ensure a positive change in the statistics around the topic, and obviously around the 90-10 statistic. As I previously mentioned, we have now been assigned to one school, which is a couple of schools actually in the area that I live in the UK, which is great because we've literally just started the ball rolling on these projects. It is a very powerful mission and a vehicle for influential attitude and action change through education and awareness campaigns in the area of child sex abuse. The mission is not only to offer clear protection, but also to support and offer solutions to children and parents who have already suffered, but also key education and innovative awareness to current demographics and other important sectors of society, thus giving prevention rather than cure. In an ever quickly changing world, as we know, we are all very committed to change the way the pivotal issue is averted, healed, treated and supported. I'm surrounded by a great team on the advisory board. We are growing all the time. We're bringing in legal, we're bringing in therapists, we're bringing in professionals. that can help this charity take the legs that it needs to take here in the UK before we go anywhere else. You know, and it's really asking questions, you know, have you ever empowered your child to be able to say no to an adult that they knew? Right, we don't I was taught to be polite, right? I mean, if I was to say no to an adult, I'd have been in trouble as a child. But we also need to give children the right to be able to say no and question it, and then report that back to their guardian. Have we ever asked children what they would do if an adult that they knew asked them to keep a secret? You know, questions we don't give kids. Are we confident knowing that wherever our child is, that they are armed with knowledge and a language that would protect them? You know, we need to really give children confidence. As you know, like I said, we spoke earlier, I did share my TED talk. It's not just the strangers we should be careful of, and that's been shared across the world. As a survivor myself, I am very comfortable having uncomfortable conversations now. I'm very comfortable to lift the dark rocks and find out more if it leads to positive change. And like we said earlier, I'm speaking to sex offenders. You know, I personally know how lonely, sad, and frightening it can be growing up in this world. It's this world of silence. My dream is for children to be able to sleep at night, to be able to have nice dreams, not nightmares and trauma. We want children to be children. We want children to be nurtured. We want them to be loved and felt listened to. They need to understand how they can navigate inappropriate behavior and get themselves through to a more positive environment. So I am doing lots of fundraising events over the next 12 months to raise awareness for the project. We're not officially a charity yet, but we're in the process of it. I mean, who knew setting up a charity was so complex? I thought you just signed on the dotted line, but I realize now that you don't, and actually good job we don't as well, right? Because everyone will be doing it. So I'm going to be doing 12 events in 12 months. September, I did a virtual 10K run. October, I swam the English Channel virtually throughout the month. 3 weeks ago, I did a 12-hour fitness day non-stop. And this weekend, I'm running a half marathon. And then I've got all sorts of long walks. I'm doing a 100K challenge next year. I'm going to be doing an open water swim. I may be looking at doing a wing walk or a skydive, but everything that I'm doing is to help raise awareness of child sex abuse. It's to help get some funds in, much needed funds. I think we're up to like £2,000 already just in the last couple of months, which is great. But for us to be able to take what we're doing to the next level, we need at least £25,000 to get like the website, the social media, all the back end office stuff done. We've had a lot of people investing time. I've invested time. We've had money invested just to get it to this point. But like you guys know, you need a lot of money to do all these things, and you have to rely on a lot of support from a lot of people. So while we can get grants and sponsorships and things in later on when we're officially a charity, it's this embryonic stage, it's the hardest while we're trying to build funds to get it off the ground. So, but look, I mean, I'm really pleased that we've got £2,000 in. We are being supported by Chapel in York here in the UK, who love the project so much. They've opened up as a page on their website. We've had a guy in London, This is London, share it on his Beverly Hills page because he believes in the work that I'm doing and the projects that I'm doing. So we've got like 3 or 4 people sharing out what we're doing. But yeah, ultimately I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to just get out there and work hard to raise awareness. So this is it. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. I can't work out how I'm doing this, but there you go. It's Project 9010, and its focus is a universal language, stopping sex abuse, and doing what we can to make a difference for young people. So I'm really pleased with the logo actually that we've created, because it simply can be put on everything. I've got all my merchandise that I wear all the time because I like to have it close to me, in a t-shirt, in a bag, or in a cap or whatever. But yeah, do you know what, Mary, Rosie, I really believe in this. And do you know what? I feel like I'm where I need to be in life. Yes, I have my businesses. Yes, I have a great team of people, and obviously activity going around me professionally, I need to make sure I continue to do. but ultimately this stuff is the good stuff. This is why I'm here. This is
Yep.
why we're having this conversation. And this is why I continue to push on, because I know the benefits that it will bring so many people. So yeah, so Project 9010, we're looking to work with charities, we're looking to work with businesses, we're looking to work, you know, my biggest powerful tool in business was when I discovered it's much better to collaborate than compete.
Exactly.
So I've taken that into my life with everything that I do, and I work alongside lots of people. So we've got lots of people wanting to join us, which is nice, because the more people with us, the bigger we can become on this subject. For all of us, for everybody, wherever you are in the world, we're all on the same journey to make a difference.
Absolutely. Collaboration, I got to tell you, is one of the key attributes of women leadership, is the ability to collaborate. And that's why we feel so strongly about Hera and building Hera City in honor of women, to celebrate the women around the world and their capabilities of taking care of, you know, family and community and the planet. So you're right where you're supposed to be, Emma. And
Thanks, Mary.
there's a reason why you are here. So kudos to you. Now, if we could just get the federal government, as opposed to just putting the perpetrators in jail, take money for them to pay for the victims. You know, one simple law, right? One simple law could make a huge impact, that you wouldn't have to go out and charity raising funds when you've already got a perpetrator who needs to fund some of the healthcare and the protection of these people. So, or these children, I should say. So anyway, Rosie, a final question for you. What can everybody do to help?
Well, I hope more people will open shelters. I think that even though it's dangerous, of course, we all are going to live the life we were planned. Since we were in the womb of our mothers, there was a plan. I believe that. I believe that for my life there was a plan, and I will live all the days that God has planned for me. So I don't care, if I am killed or whatever happens to myself. I think there is many people who are in the shower, they fell, they killed themselves by an accident, and they never did nothing for the rest of the world, and it's so sad. So I believe that these to open shelter for little girls and boys, it's so wonderful, it's so beautiful to be able to listen to people like Emma, and to learn from them. It's the most precious thing you can really live for, because Emma herself is a whole world to learn from her, and to be able to give the hand of somebody to another human being is wonderful. Now Emma is helping so many. So if you have had a good life or a bad life, it doesn't matter. You can do something for the rest of the world, at least to give money for them. Every dollar, every pound, every euro that you give today, it goes double from until the Sunday, the 12th. So if you help now children that are in shelters, just to have the education and everything, if you give whatever you give, it's going to be so important for that life to recover their dreams, to recover from a trauma that is so difficult to recover. So please do something. If you are not going to open a shelter, at least give some money to these causes. Give Emma help for helping more people to prevent these crimes, and give these children that are in shelters money to be able to recover their dreams.
Awesome. Well, I have to tell you guys, we're kind of at the end of our time, and I am honored to be part of this discussion. I think what Emma and Rosie are doing is extremely powerful and making a huge impact. And I hope that other people will hear this message and join in to help you, or that you guys find a way to collaborate with as many organizations as possible to unite and stamp out this issue, because violence against women is just, or little kids, is just unnecessary. Totally. So thank you.
And Mary, thank you first of all for this effort. I really appreciate so much Marianela, who put us together. I think Hera and Hera City is an incredible project that we all have to know about it. And in Mexico, we will develop everything for the future of the women who has been abused. But first of all, thank you, Mary. You are amazing. You are such a friend, and I really appreciate this friendship. And now that you have introduced us to Emma, I hope this will be the beginning of a friendship, Emma. I hope that one day you can come to Mexico and you can speak also in Mexico about it, or whatever I am going to be, because so thank you, Mary.
Maybe you both meet up in Washington and get new laws in place.
Yeah, it sounds great. Look, thanks, Mary. Ditto to everything that Rosie said. I mean, you guys are doing a great job with promoting women, promoting business for women, giving women a voice, giving women an opportunity. And I know that you've got some huge opportunities coming up, and I just wish you well with them. And Rosie, yeah, I mean, you know, it's the start of a new friendship and an opportunity for us to really sort of get our heads together about the work that we're doing as well. And I think you're probably a bit more further advanced than I am with my project, but I'm not far behind.
Yeah, but we are learning from each other, and I really appreciate this new friendship. I hope, Emma, that we will meet soon.
I hope so too, Rosie.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for your time today. This is Mary Pagano with Hera TV, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.